Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the fastest growing, fastest rising post-professional wrestling show in all of sports and entertainment. Welcome back to Ringside Conversations. I am your host, Roddy of Chrisman Media, and we are fresh off Friday Night SmackDown, the first one post-Royal Rumble, and there is a lot to go over. Drew McIntyre, our WWE champion, opens the show, and literally like maybe 10 seconds into his entrance, he gets attacked by Cody Rhodes. Now, Cody Rhodes is pissed off. Why is he pissed off? Well, because Drew McIntyre eliminated him in the Royal Rumble. Mind you, Drew McIntyre's a champion, therefore he's not in the Royal Rumble match. So he cost Cody Rhodes in the Royal Rumble match. So her attacking Drew, Nick Aldis sends a security to separate the two. Drew McIntyre goes into the back. Cody Rhodes then cuts a hilarious, the promo itself wasn't hilarious. It just had a hilarious moment where he mentioned Roman Reigns and CM Punk and how, he had a comment about it being he didn't say this word for word because, Cody Rhodes is PG, but a dick measuring contest, right? But he also commented by saying, that's why they call him Raheem. And that is hilarious, Cody. In spite of that, he says essentially that all this is by Drew's design. Because, Drew McIntyre could have just won his championship and let it be that, But no, of course not. I mean, we're talking about Cody going to Drew's house while he was champion amongst the build-up to him losing the title, So it's like, it's too personal for Drew not to be involved. That being said, Cody also makes a bold claim by saying Drew will not make it to Mania. So very excited to see what that will partake and what that will look like. Into which Nick Aldis basically tells him, backstage at least, that Cody will be involved in the triple threat Elimination Chamber qualifying match next week, as long as he leaves SmackDown, goes home, in which Cody agrees to. Moving on to our first match of the night. The reigning WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Rio, aka IYO SKY, and Rhea Ripley, facing Kiana James and Julia. WWE basically gave Julia and Kiana James an opportunity, I would assume, based off of Kiana James's MVP-like performance in the Royal Rumble, which I will talk about in my Royal Rumble recap. And the match itself, pretty fire. Kiana James, I think, is going to be a very, very slept on competitor this year in terms of just, we all know her from NXT. She has limited time on the main roster as of right now, but she can put on a banger, dude. We got to see a lot of moments for her, really. I mean, she was very dominant in the match itself, like from start to, of course, until the hot tag of IYO SKY to Rhea Ripley. Anybody else notice how Rhea Ripley and IYO SKY is a tag team, like the formula of the match? It's so simple. IYO starts the match, gets beat up a lot by the heels, gets the hot tag, and they win. Like, that's it. That's the formula for the matches, which also, mind you, this match was for the titles, if I haven't already said that. And per Rio fashion, Riptide, Moonsault, 1, 2, 3, they win the match. Moving on, we get a backstage segment between The Miz and Ilya Dragunov. So, mind you, last week, Ilya Dragunov and The Miz had a match, and Ilya won that match, beat up The Miz, right? Essentially, The Miz basically tells Ilya, you don't have to always go based off of brute strength and, fist first, whatever the case may be, implying that you don't have to rush to get your title shot at the United States Championship. And Ilya isn't having it, considering, he beat The Miz. Why would he take his advice or whatever? In which Carmelo Hayes comes out and he's like, what are you doing? Last time I checked, Ilya Dragunov was next in line and he beat you. Therefore, why would I give you a title shot? And by the way, I'm a champion. I call the shots here, right? And so Carmelo Hayes basically says he's due for a quote unquote ass whooping, to where he makes a match, calls a shot. Not for the title, though, in which Miz is frustrated. And Ilya Dragunov is also frustrated because now he's to wait an extra week to get his title shot. But the match itself, like Melo and The Miz, fire. It is not that surprising, but nice in a standpoint of The Miz being in WWE for as long as he has, able to put on a banger of a match with someone like Melo. Now, mind you, Melo is him. Melo don't miss. Melo is phenomenal, right? And The Miz is one of the best heels ever, one of the best dudes on the mic ever. Although his in-ring skill set, it's not terrible. It doesn't blow your mind, though, at the same time. But at the same time, maybe that formula just worked because, that match was fire. The start of the match, The Miz basically tries to cheap shot Melo to where it does not work. However, Miz eventually gets the upper hand for almost majority of the match. And then the back half of the match, Melo does what Melo does. He seemed to do high-flying stuff. They go back and forth quite a bit, actually, towards the back half of the match. And Melo does a clean, crazy reversal of the Miz skull-crushing finale to where he goes in for it, and he basically like does like a front flip almost off of his head, and then first 48. Boom, that was it. 1, 2, 3. Match was crazy. And Melo beat The Miz clean. So what does that mean for The Miz? Like, what can you pull up out of your bag of tricks now for this? Because it seems like I would ideally think this will lead up to a triple threat match either at Elimination Chamber or at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. Either way, sounds pretty fire. Moving on to the next match of the evening, we get a triple threat match. Winner qualifies for the Women's Elimination Chamber. You get Tiffy Time, Tiffany Stratton, Lash Legend, and Chelsea Green. What a patriot she is, right? I just want to say this and get this off my chest. I tweeted about this already. The WWE needs to push Chelsea Green. And I'm not talking like the mid-card push that she originally got, okay? Although that was great in terms of her winning, not really much great after that because of the booking that was given to her. Chelsea Green makes do with whatever plates of poop she's received by WWE Creative, and she just does it with a smile on her face, and she does an amazing job. She starts off the match yelling at both of them, Lash Legend and Tiffany Stratton. Is beat up by both of them. They were in Charlotte this evening, by the way. And the only reason I bring that up is because they loved Chelsea Green. Before the match even started, there was a backstage segment with Chelsea Green handing out like not flyers, but like newspapers of basically of her opportunity of the Royal Rumble being stolen from by her elimination. And Chelsea Green is gold, dude. Like, she is so funny. She is so creative and dramatic. And we love all that in wrestling. Now, I'm going to bring this up because Tiffany Stratton won this match. And I'm very surprised a little bit. I'm not that surprised because Triple H loves Tiffany, which is fine. But I am a little surprised because Lash Legend being in this match, I thought they were going to like push her to the moon immediately. They put her in the Royal Rumble, and I talk about this in my recap, but I'm going to talk about it again. She sets the record of most eliminations in the Women's Royal Rumble, which is 5. Mind you, 4 of those people were the Bella Twins, Charlotte Flair, and IYO SKY. Names, not just nobody, but like people with pedigree, okay? Which I thought she would really win this match. I really did. I didn't expect her to in the chamber if that was the case, but I thought they were going to push her, like I said, immediately to the moon. But that being said, there was moments in the match where she did shine through. She was very dominant in this match. She also had her tag team partner, Nia Jax, at ringside. Nia got taken out like 2 times, I think, or 2 or 3 times, which was kind of funny because like she was like super involved in that case. But there was a moment that the crowd thought that Chelsea Green had a perfect opportunity to win because she takes out Nia and Lash Legend. Her and Tiffany take out Lash Legend at ringside again to where it was just her and Tiffany. But ultimately, Tiffany it's Tiffy time, you know? Prettiest moonsault ever. 1, 2, 3, that was it. But I mean, Tiffany Stratton is probably the correct choice for this match because I feel like the pretty Barbie hardcore girl, she will do well in an Elimination Chamber match. Now, later on, there was a backstage segment between Rio celebrating their championship title defense being successful, and then Nia Jax and Lash Legend comes in the background and interrupts their interview. And basically, long story short, Nia Jax tells him, "You're lucky that wasn't us because we would have walked away with the titles." And it's about time that I probably talked to Nick Aldis because y'all been ducking and diving us for a while. And so they want the smoke. So they went, I would assume that we would see somewhere on social media that the match is made official. So, and it just when, by the way, not that I'm mad about it, right? But when did the women's tag team titles become the new United States Championship Open Challenge, even though it's not necessarily an open challenge because we know who's in the match prior to the match happening, but like they defend it twice a week. Like they defend it on Monday Night Raw, they defend it on SmackDown. It's like they always defend it, which I'm not mad about. The match is exciting. I want to talk about my favorite part of the evening. First of all, Kit Wilson, the most low-key, hilarious, has potential to be like unnecessarily big by a mid-carder, right? Not just a mid-carder, but a mid-carder, Kit Wilson. And we see the toxic masculinity just taking over the locker room and taking over SmackDown, quite frankly. So now a man with confidence, a man who moisturizes, a man who listens, comes out and lets the whole locker room, especially the sweaty, dirty men with alpha egos of the 30-man Royal Rumble, he lets all of them know if they want to come out and try to tell Kit Wilson otherwise, he'll come on out. And it was Obafemi, the ruler, the mountain you cannot climb, comes out. And the first words that he says as he's walking is it's time to die. Like, what are we talking about? Obafemi, bro. And of course, like, what else do you think was going to happen? Kit Wilson got squashed in like 5 seconds, bro. Obafemi doing these squash matches, I need more of them. I want to see it every day. I want to see it next Monday, but I want to see like how dominant they're going to make him be. That was my favorite part of the night. Like, sorry, not sorry. Moving on, Drew McIntyre is back, makes his entrance. He's very paranoid. He's over here looking back at the stage because that's where Cody Rhodes initially attacked him. So he does his entrance. He makes his way to the ring, grabs a microphone. As soon as this man grabs a microphone, this man gets attacked by the man none other than Jacob Fatu, okay? Which, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, but it was hilarious. It's just so funny. So he attacks Drew. Security gets involved again via Nick Aldis, and it didn't matter. Jacob, bro, you could not pay me to be a WWE security guard, let alone a cop in the arena. They tell me, go take out Jacob Fatu. He's attacking my champion. I'll give you my badge, bro. I'm not touching Jacob Fatu because he don't care about my authority of being security. He's over here throwing security over announcer tables, punching, closing them. Like, it's crazy. Drew finally leaves, and Nick Aldis goes backstage and then tells Jacob the same thing he tells Cody. You'll be in a qualifying match. If you do not leave right now, though, that will change. So then Jacob does what Jacob does. I'm a dog walk their ass and push the security out the way. Hey, all right, Jacob. Moving on to the next match of the evening. I'll be very honest with you guys. This next match is Shinsuke Nakamura versus Tama Tonga. On paper, this match should be exciting, and it probably was exciting. I unfortunately did not see majority of this match because during this part of SmackDown, my dogs decided to bother me because they had to go potty. So I had to go be a good doggy daddy and take both of them outside and go potty, and they took a long time to go potty. Okay, so I'm assuming the match was not that long, but I do know that Tama Tonga won. And if I'm not mistaken, based off what I've seen on X, the MFT got involved to some degree. That helped Tama Tonga won the match. If you're not aware, from last week, Shinsuke saw Tama Tonga backstage. Why is that important? These two dudes were back in New Japan Pro Wrestling together. Okay, and now they're in a WWE ring. It's so cool. However, to probably the most exciting part of the night in terms of drama, Liv Morgan comes out with Raquel Rodriguez. Okay. Of course, she's the Royal Rumble winner. So she gets to go on Raw on her home show, and she also goes to SmackDown to see if she wants to choose Jade Cargill, current champion, right? And, you know, Liv Morgan promos are about as Liv Morgan as you can get. She brags about winning, brags about being the greatest Royal Rumble winner of all time, brags about being the greatest women in WWE, which it's hard to go against facts. So I'm not mad at that, Liv. However, she did look at Raquel and she says, I want to address the really big elephant in the room. And Liv Morgan says, let me address the biggest elephant in the room. Raquel immediately took the mic, not in a disrespectful way, and she says, I want to address the biggest elephant in the room. Into which Jade Cargill comes out, which is fine because Liv said her name anyway. And, you know, in wrestling, there's that unwritten rule where if someone calls out your name, that individual comes out. Jade essentially doesn't care if Liv Morgan chooses her or not. She just kind of like established her dominance, saying if she does, she would, and I quote, I have it in my notes right here, she will beat that ass at Mania. And then she proceeds to look at Raquel and says, what the hell are you looking at? And, you know, I can appreciate the confidence that Liv Morgan has because she tells Jade, I watch what you say if I were you. And Liv Morgan does something very smart in terms of manipulation. She basically then says, you're looking at a woman, Raquel Rodriguez, that is fully capable of taking your title, and she can take your title. So that way her and Liv Morgan can walk out of Mania, both champions of the Judgment Day. And then Jordynne Grace interrupts everybody, and WWE has been really heavily involving Jordynne Grace around Jade Cargill. I'm very confident that we will get at least the both of them bare minimum at WrestleMania against each other for the championship. So now we are in the ring with all four ladies, and Liv Morgan, being who she is, she says along the lines of, I don't know who you think you are. I know you're new, you know, and all that. And she tries to basically say, you know, you don't know who you're talking to, yada, yada, yada. And then Jay tells her to shut up. And then there's some tension. So of course, Nick Aldis, who's already in the ring, because he introduces Liv Morgan, says, you know what? I do have a rule that if you want to be invited yourself, if you want to invite yourself into SmackDown, you also got to invite yourself into the ring. So then he has Jordynne Grace and Jade Cargill versus Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. Now, the match itself was fine. And there's actually two stories being told at the same time, which I can really appreciate here. On one end, you have two people who are in the same faction since the dawn of time, because the Judgment Day is like 100 years old at this point, and two women who are not in a faction, tag team, anything like that. And Jordynne Grace could very much well be Jade Cargill's opponent at WrestleMania. At the same time, though, even though Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, former tag team champions, by the way, have been very dominant in the match, Jade Cargill got like a lick of anything in the ring because, and I don't know if WB did that on purpose. I don't even know if WWE is treating Jade Cargill as a champion effectively right now. And who knows? That could be because she's like low-key hurt. So they're like being careful with her right now because she hasn't defended that mug in like 2 months maybe. So I'm sure there's a reason for that they're not telling us. This is the first time we saw Jade with Jordan in the ring and Jade hardly did anything, which I think that's like the heel aspect of it, right? So which is fine. Literally, I don't recall if Jordynne Grace tagged in Jade Cargill at all. And in spite of that, right, Jade Cargill did get in the ring at one point in time to where she big booted Jordan on accident. After it happened, she didn't care that it happened. And then she had a small face off of Raquel to where Raquel was going to big boot her and she big boots Liv Morgan, which that's like the more interesting tension here. And she looked a little more concerned because it seemed on accident, but at the same time, it was her get back. And then they had another face-off, and then Jordan actually ends up picking up the win for Team Jade and Jordan, in which that win solidified a championship opportunity next week on SmackDown, which is very, very interesting that we're getting this championship match now, or as soon as we are. It makes me think, like, what are they doing with the both of them, right? The tension is pretty soon, right? Like, in terms of them getting built up to be opponents. I don't know. It's very interesting. One of my favorite backstage moments happened shortly after. And this is like a quick side note. I haven't really discussed them a lot because here at Ringside Conversations, we're slowly elevating. And I've mainly been doing Raw reviews right now because of just overall schedule in my personal life. But, there's quick backstory. Fraxium, the tag team, have been beefing with Johnny Gargano, okay? Johnny Wrestling, Mr. NXT. The beef started when Johnny took the mask of Fraxium. From that, it's a blue Power Ranger looking mask. And the whole storyline was that Fraxium was trying to get the mask back, okay? So Johnny had matches with both of them, okay? Both members of the tag team. And last week, they finally got their mask back, okay? Johnny looks, you're going to see the memes of it all over Twitter. It's so funny. Fraxium is talking to Motor City Machine Guns, who we haven't seen in a while, right? And they basically said, they're all buddies, by the way. They're going to talk to Nick August to get, a match next week now that they're done with the whole Johnny stuff. Candace, who is Johnny's wife, who was also involved in the beef, interrupts them and tells them to apologize to Johnny, look at Johnny, whatever. And Johnny's on a box, like fully laid down on the box. And he just looks so depressed. And Candace is telling them, you don't know what that mask meant to him. And it's like, you mean the mask that he stole from me? Like the logic behind this beef is out the window. I just wanted to throw that out there. Moments later, we also had a backstage segment involving Sami Zayn. After we got the PR package of him losing to Drew McIntyre, he has not, I think he's 0-12, against Drew McIntyre in his career. So, and Sami is depressed because there's depression in the locker room now. He's just walking down. And then Ray Phoenix, Penta's brother, Lucha brother, he tries to let Sami know, although you didn't win, it's okay. You gave guys like myself hope in winning a championship, or at least getting an opportunity at a championship one day. To which whoop that Trick William himself and all his fur from his white mink comes in and he called Sami Zayn Charles Barkley. What sense in wrestling do we have basketball comparisons? Trick Williams I hope he gets the biggest push of all time. I want this man main event WrestleMania today, okay? Whoop that Trick Williams he is going to be bigger than LA Knight, during that movement. I hope he's bigger than the Yes movement of Daniel Bryan. So that was I got a little ahead of myself. The Yes movement was insane. Whoop that Trick is crazy. He then after the basketball comparison, he basically says, I'm Mr. Get It Done. And upon his disrespect, Ray Phoenix goes up to his face and lets him know how disrespectful he was. And so he then basically says that he wants to talk to Nick Aldis. And SmackDown, it's a lot of, I'm going to go talk to Nick Aldis. That's like the bottom line settlement of the conversation. Speaking of bottom lines of conversation, Drew McIntyre is back. for the third time. And he was actually able to like get a word out. Okay. And he comes out and bro's on the announcer table because bro just can't trust getting attacked from the stage. Okay. Or the ring, let alone. Right. Drew McIntyre actually cuts a interesting promo. In my Raw review, I mentioned he brought up CM Punk and Roman Reigns because if you don't know, Roman Reigns chose CM Punk as his opponent at WrestleMania because he hates him. Within that promo battle of them two, CM Punk and Roman Reigns, CM Punk says Drew McIntyre is the quote unquote easy way out. And, Roman Reigns is like, he's like 4 times your size, right? Stuff like that. And amongst other things were said about Drew McIntyre, which did insinuate a little bit that, at least this is how Drew took it, that the Undisputed Championship and SmackDown is the B title on the B show now. Because, Raw's on Netflix. They're the big marquee show now. They have all the stars over there. And Drew McIntyre, if you're in the SmackDown locker room, take that personally and rise up to the occasion. And, I actually thought Drew did a phenomenal job here of clapping back in terms of what Roman and CM Punk were saying. Because it's ironic in terms of the B show and the B title, whatever, because the World Heavyweight Championship and Roman's own words is the loser's title when he was champion before he lost at WrestleMania 40. So it's just funny that he's now being the guy to like make that title heavily important now. But if anybody can do it, the Tribal Chief can. I mean, the Undisputed Championship was once called the Universal Championship, and he made that title the most important title in the company. So with that being said, Trick Williams comes out, whoop that trick himself, comes out, and he basically tells Drew that, you're worried about the wrong things. You're over here worrying about Roman and CM Punk, but you need to be worried about the future, and that is Mr. Whoop That, right? Drew McIntyre kind of smirked at him, whatever. He says, let me give you some advice. Walk before you run. And if you interrupt the champ again, I'm going to take your lemon pepper steppers and shove them where the sun don't shine. I love how intense Trick Williams gets whenever someone says something back to him. He takes his glasses off and just gives him that stare. Trick Williams needs to main event everything. I would never get tired of Trick Williams. So Trick Williams also says that he was going to be ringside during the qualifying match between the main event in the evening, Randy Orton versus Solo Sikoa versus Aleister Black. The match was phenomenal. Everybody felt important, and everybody had moments in the match where we thought that was either it or we thought, at least I thought, that they could have played a role in Elimination Chamber. Appreciate moments in time where we got to see Trick Williams at ringside, because he had a lot of moments where it was just all facial expression and body language. And he killed it. You will hear me say this probably every SmackDown recap that I do, okay? I want to see Whoop That every single week, every PLE. I hope he wins Money in the Bank. I feel like that would be so crazy for him. I hope he main events WrestleMania now. Of course, I'm being dramatic, so let me just have that, guys. In terms of the match, though, I'm surprised the Wyatt Six didn't really do a whole lot at all. The most we got out of it was earlier they had a video package of Bo Dallas mentioning Solo. At least it implied to me what Bo Dallas said, that he's alone right now. I don't know what that means per se, but at the same time, it just seems like WWE doesn't really know what they're going to do with the Wyatt Six. Solo Sikoa came out with the lantern that he took post winning the tag team championships for the MFT. So I don't really know what's going to happen next in terms of the MFT and the Wyatt Six. I mean, we'll see. Nonetheless, they didn't need to do anything because the match, again, the match is phenomenal. Randy Orton won, as he should have, and this is not going to happen, by the way, but I personally think it'll be pretty cool if Randy were to face Drew at Mania, because let's make it clear, CM Punk and Roman Reigns will be the Night 2 main event. What if Randy becomes the 15-time champion at WrestleMania and it finally sets up this whole Randy versus Cody stuff? I think it'll be a cool opportunity if Cody turns heel, because during the whole tension between Randy and Cody to begin with, we all thought Randy would turn heel because we know he can, right? But it'll be very interesting to see what heel Cody can do. That's not going to happen, obviously. It will either, at minimum, be Drew versus Cody again, or it might be a triple threat between him, Cody, and Jacob Fatu. But that concludes our Friday Night SmackDown recap. If you guys enjoyed, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you guys are fans of sports, not just professional wrestling, I'm talking pro football, collegiate football, boxing, NBA, collegiate basketball. Here at Chrisman Media, we have it all for you guys. Definitely give us a follow. Check out our main page over at Chrisman Media at all platforms. And thanks to all my wrestling fans for kicking it with me. Love y'all so much. Thank you guys so much. See y'all next time.